What you got, bro?
I bet it, right?
All right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, Matt and I had talked about something a while back, I mean maybe about a year ago plus, over at his sister's house one time when he was visiting.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about it recently, and it had been a while since he had studied it, but he gave me the verses that pertain to the subject.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember us talking about this back then, but it was concerning sacrifices continuing on forever, perpetually, as like a as like a memorial, basically.
Yeah, like Ezekiel I'll have to reread Ezekiel 40 through 48. There's like the Ezekiel 40 through 48, and then
like 40,
Isaiah.
Ezekiel had 43.
Oh yeah, what you got, Ezekiel?
And the context, Matt was saying the context is the millennial kingdom, and that if you read it in context, because Ezekiel 40 kind of lays that out, but but he gave me Ezekiel 43 verses 18 through 27.
43. And then we got to throw in the hopper too, that passage in Isaiah 66 as well. And I'm sure there's more, but we'll start with this. Ezekiel 43.
Mm-hmm.
Which one you said?
18, starting in 18 all the way to the end.
All right, and he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith the Lord God, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they shall make it, to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood. And thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that shall be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me to minister unto me, saith the Lord God, a young bullock for sin offering. Thou shalt take of the blood thereof, and put it on the four horns of the altar, clean and purge. Thou shalt take the bullock also the sin offering, and he shall burn it and clean. Second day thou shalt offer a kid of the goats without blemish.
So it's clear it's talking about these burnt offerings.
Sure,
and
I mean, it's clear, yeah, man.
And what Matt was saying was that in the context, this is talking about something that's going on during the millennium.
Okay, so here's what we do know about the millennium. The Gentiles are going to be coming up, right?
Right.
And they're going to be under that law. They're going to be sacrifices. So Israel's a kingdom of priests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the question. Are they just a kingdom of priests during the millennium?
Or does it continue on?
Right, because they are a kingdom of priests, right? There'll be kings, they're kings and priests, and the priest's job is twofold, to give the law, but to offer sacrifices too.
Right, and in response to that, I believe there's some verses that talk about using the word forever. So that's what I'm saying. It would extend beyond just the millennium. And we can look at some of those verses. Let's go in order here that he gave me. Exodus 12, verses 13 and 14.
Oh yeah, I see. And the fact that it's Exodus 12 too, Ryan, just off the bat, when I hear Exodus 12, that's exactly when, the Passover and so forth. Mm-hmm. The Lord's Passover, man, yep. Go ahead. Yep.
So I'll read it here. Verse 13, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the house where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. Right. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever. Yeah, forever. And so if you kind of couple that with the verses we just read about some of these feasts and the practice of those feasts, it seems that, yes, indeed, the sacrifices will be continued.
I remember now, I was talking about it, I believe it was you, maybe Matt too, when I talked on the phone. And I thought that's what we had saw there, that this looks like it's going to continue forever. And see, verses like that, when he says forever, he means it, man, like forever, right? So, not just for like 1,000 years.
So people would cry foul and say, well, why would they do that? Because Christ did a sacrifice. But why would they do it in the first place? It's the same thing. And
by the way, his sacrifice it's everlasting, right? It's like, and I can easily see that this is a constant reminder, right?
Just like the sacrifices pre-cross were pointing towards the cross, these are going to be pointing back
to the cross forever.
Right.
There's not going to be a generation of humanity is coming that won't understand this by going through that ritual.
Right.
Man. No, I think I remember now we did. I like that verse right there, and I guarantee we can find, and what's precious about this? Just Exodus 12, right?
Right.
This was before the law. Before the law, right?
Because Exodus 20 is the law.
So this is the Lord. So even that,
the Lord's
right?
feasts, right?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
You want to look at some of the other verses you gave me? So Isaiah 56, verses 6 through 8.
Isaiah 56. All right. I was thinking Isaiah 66. Yeah, so Isaiah 56. Verses what now?
6 through 8.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
And the sons of the stranger that join themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, every one that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar, for mine house shall be called an house of prayer for all people. The Lord which gathereth the outcasts of Israel, yet will I gather others to him besides those who are gathered unto him. So, I guess this is kind of showing that.
Well, if you look at verse, if you look at verse number,
because this is about basically the Gentiles in the future, right?
Yeah, look at 4 and 5. For thus saith the Lord unto the eunuchs that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant. Even unto them will I give in mine house and within my walls a place and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name, shall not be cut off. Also the sons of the stranger, join themselves to serve. Yeah, this looks like there's going to be this perpetual
So it's
thing.
just kind of like receiving the heathen for thine inheritance time type of situation.
Oh yeah, exactly. And look at verse number 7. I was just thinking.
Which is a future event, we know, of course.
Yeah. By the way, will that temple ever cease to be a house of prayer? No, right? People are going to constantly come to pray to the Lord. There's never going to be a time where man doesn't pray to the Lord. Watch this. He says, even verse 7, even then will I bring to my holy mountain, make them joyful in my house of prayer. And with that, their burnt offerings and sacrifice shall be accepted upon my altar, for my house shall be called out. In fact, notice that in verse 7, it looks like that prayer and offering, that offering goes together, doesn't it?
Right.
He calls it a house of prayer, their burnt offerings and their sacrifices, for it shall be called a house of prayer. That verse 7 got me thinking that's going to be going on together. That, check this out, Ryan. When that Gentile comes before the Lord to pray before the Lord, he's going to have to offer the sacrifice, and that's what Israel, that's yeah. So
right.
Yeah.
And verse 6 are also the sons of the stranger and everything. It's talking about that future event stuff going on.
And what did they do on the Sabbath?
Gentiles
part of the Sabbath
being
worship,
ministered to by the kingdom of priests, right?
Exactly. Part of the Sabbath worship. If you look at the Sabbath, or you look at the Sabbath, it was part and parcel of sacrificing, man. And this looks like it's going to come. It's going to happen forever. Look at Isaiah 60.
The kind of point being, if as Revelation and stuff, as it shows that the Gentiles are going to come to the Israelites, and they're going to be a nation of priests to the world, and that they're going to be servicing these Gentiles. This is
because of a kingdom of priests, right?
Right.
A kingdom of priests. That means the entire kingdom will be.
This what I'm saying is this is describing that service at that time, and it's clear that burnt offerings are part of that service, and that's a future event. So this is showing that there definitely will be animal sacrifices post cross.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I mean, I'm looking at Isaiah 66 now.
All right.
Verse 20, and they shall bring all your brethren for an offering to the Lord out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots and litters and upon mules. So this will be when the Lord returns, and upon swift beasts to my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith the Lord, as the children of Israel bring an offering. Okay, so he says the Gentiles will bring. So this will be when the Lord returns. The Gentiles will bring all these outcasts of Israel from all around back to Israel, Jerusalem, and I will also take of them for priest and Levite. Okay, so this is the kingdom when he sets it up, said the Lord.
Right.
Verse 22. For as the new heavens and new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, said the Lord, so shall your seed and your name. It looks like this is just a constant thing, right? Verse 23, it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, said the Lord. Like, I don't see a time where that's ever going to end.
Right.
And when he says to worship, when you look at those new moons and those Sabbaths, there's always sacrifices involved with that.
Right. Well, I mean, in the context of 66 is building on what we were reading in 56. Keeps flowing into talking about the same.
You got any other ones that you
Yes.
got? What you got?
Here.
No, I remember this now. Yeah, this is probably over a year ago.
Zechariah 14, verse 16.
Zechariah 14, 16. Let's see here. And Judah shall also shall fight at Jerusalem.
I get it. And
Oh, I'm sorry, 16.
And it shall come to pass,
14, 16. Sorry about that.
right, that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King and Lord of hosts and keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
Yeah, when is that going to ever end?
Right. It's going to continue. And as we saw earlier on, that those feasts seem to be consisting of sacrifices, even in the context of the Gentiles in the future being involved in it with this nation of priests.
Read verse 21. Read the last verse of Zechariah.
Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts, and all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seeth therein.
See, yeah, this is going to be constant. This is never going to stop.
Yeah, they that sacrifice, right?
Yeah. And in that day there shall be no more Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. This thing is going to happen forever, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any. Let me just say it like this. I don't know of any verses, Ryan. I know what the people say. Christ sacrificed. He already did, right? But I'm with you. When you look at all that stuff from Adam on,
Well, you know what it is? It's kind of a straw man argument, because what they're saying is, they're saying that animal sacrifices are not needed because Christ came and died on the cross, and they're missing the whole point that the sacrifices were never needed. They were always a picture in the first place.
It wasn't those sacrifices that were. It was what they pointed to in the mind of God.
Right.
See?
Right.
Because it's impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. It was what it represents, right?
Right.
Because it was an animal. An animal cannot truly cover the sins of a man, but it was the temporary solution until Jesus comes, right?
Mm-hmm. But it was also it was pre-memorial.
It was a pre-memorial. Right. Sure it is. So now we got a post-memorial.
God's seeing things in real time at all points of time, so it's constantly.
It's like a Memorial Day, sure, right? Because you're constantly remembering the sacrifice of those that were in service or whatever. It's a yearly reminder, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is, and it'll never end, by the way. Because his sacrifice, it is eternal in view. This thing, there's more evidence to me that this is something going to go on forever. And like you said, it is straw man. It's like, I know what they're trying to say. That we shouldn't need, man should not need those animals because Jesus already did it, right?
Yeah, that's the wrong way to frame it, right?
Those things pre-Christ, pre-Messiah, were pointing to him. It had nothing to do. You did it by faith, but it was who it was pointing to forward.
They're thinking that they're giving those sacrifices too much power. They didn't, right? The power was never there in the beginning.
By the way, really, the power was in the faith of the person in God's word to them, right? Because God was the one remitting this. I mean, Hebrews says it was impossible for the blood of bulls and goats. I like how you said it. They were giving the blood sacrifices, too much power, and not focus on what God focused on, which is your faith doing it and what it represents.
They being the folks that would cry foul and saying, no, there's not going to be any more sacrifices in the millennium and beyond.
By the way, what verses do they give? Because I don't see any verses where this is ever going to stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, we get some more verses. Jeremiah 33.
Yeah.
Verse 16, and I think it's 16 through 18.
Yeah, in those days
shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely, and this is the name wherewith she shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel, neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me to offer burnt offerings and to kindle meat offerings and to do sacrifice continually.
He said, look what he said. From those verses, this is a continual thing, right? It's a continually. So they'd have to show me, okay, when he says continually or even forever, that he just meant the kingdom and not for. I mean, continually, right? So the point is, Ryan, in their minds, okay, so at the end of millennium. So then it just ends and they just sit around like this. All right, well, that's it. No, this is continually, yeah. And look what he says, to offer burnt offerings and to kindle meat offerings. They're killing animals there, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, no. What else you got? That's a really good one.
It's kind of like the English is interesting too. The never want. For this said the Lord David shall never want.
The way we use want is like a desire, right?
Right.
This is like
lack.
Never lack. Yes, right. Exactly. That's a good point.
Will never lack a man to sit upon the throne. Will never lack a man before me to offer burnt offerings. Because
if you read it like how we use want something, David shall never want a man to sit upon. Why would he want a man to sit upon? Right. But that's not what he's saying. He would never lack. He would never lack a. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just like not as I speak as regard to want, right?
Right. Okay. Right. Paul in Philippians, right?
Right.
Philippians
I don't need it. I don't need your offering per se. I just want it so that food bounds to your guys.
That's really good.
Right.
He said not that I speak in respect of want, but that I have food bound. Philippians, right? So that's exactly right. It's not like he has this need, right? He'll never lack. It's a lack thing. There would never lack. Yeah. Right. It's interesting because I always read it in the Bible way of want, right?
Sure.
So now that you said that, some people could read.
You got to kind of point it out. The Elizabethan
David shall never want the man, and I can see some fool right now teaching it like this. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit on his throne of his house. Jesus could not be the Messiah because David never wanted anybody to sit on. He comes talking about, and you be like, goof. That means he'll never lack. That's pretty good. I never see in my mind. I've never even thought about it like that, but that's what it's. Yeah. You got any other ones? These are
Isaiah 19:19.
That's funny. Yeah, David would never want a man. Joyce Meyer used that. See, he really wanted a woman. 19:19.
Yeah, it says, "In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord." So it's showing that there is going to be an altar of sacrifice in that New Jerusalem, right? Well, at least an altar, you know. And that's in that. I mean, that's all the way in Egypt because that New Jerusalem is so huge.
Exactly.
It goes all the way into Egypt, right? I remember Leonard talking about that one a long time ago. It's like, you know that there's an altar in Egypt in the future? I was like, whoa. Let's see. Another one is Isaiah 60, verse 7.
No, I remember Leonard saying yeah. Isaiah 60, verse 7.
Yep. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on mine altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. So this is future event again.
It's future. I'm just looking. I'm looking down through there too. The city of the Lord design. Look at this here. Look at verse 15. I just kept looking at in the context of it. Look at this here. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations.
Right.
And their job is to be, I guarantee you, if I sat down and went through some, their job is to be, look at chapter 61, verse 6, 61:6. But ye shall be named the priest of the Lord. Ryan, from Exodus, man, their job is to be a priest, and the priest's main job, twofold, is to give the word, but also to offer sacrifice, man. It is. The priest of the Lord, men shall call you.
You got it.
Okay. All right, cool. Men shall call you, as the priest of the Lord, the minister. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. You shall eat the riches of Gentiles.
Right, because the Gentiles are going to come and...
Oh, and by the way, all right. When will that ever end? Never.
Right.
They're going to constantly be getting this. The Gentiles coming, and they're coming offering sacrifices. What they're doing too, right? Do you know that? Yeah, they're offering sacrifices. Yeah. Man, this is good. Yeah. What do you got? Some other?
Let's see. The last one I have here that Matt gave me with the list he had was Malachi 3 verses 1 through 4.
Yeah. And I'm sure he and I will go over these on Saturday too. Well, I'll share. So you'll share one, but I'll share one too. Malachi 3, verse 4.
I get verses 1 through 4.
1 through 4? Okay.
Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple.
Right.
Even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver.
Well, that's going to be the day of his wrath there, right? Yeah.
Right, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. So this is more talking about the offering is more of the purging that's going on.
Right. It's going to be them,
Israel coming out of Jacob, essentially.
Right, that's what I think it is.
Right.
That's more of them going through that time of Jacob's trouble.
As opposed to talking about an offering of an animal.
Sometimes he'll talk about, he'll refer to them as an offering.
Well, it's good maybe that we looked at this to kind of see those distinctions and to see when it is saying that and when it's not saying that. Because there's definitely times where it's talking about actual, not talking about the whole flock and the tribulation, but talking about future events in the millennium and beyond.
And Paul uses that term offering. You remember Romans 15, right? He says, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable. He's saying his ministry is that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable. He's purifying us for the Lord, through his doctrine, So if I can remember now, it's coming back to my memory that we've had that discussion, and what it looks like, this is going, and you know what I'm going to do? I'll do this weekend. I'm going to look at, I'm going to read Ezekiel 40 through 48. I guarantee you, if we read that, we can find verses that just say, yep, this thing is just, all we need is some forevers, up in there. We can
evidently, what Matt was saying, that Ezekiel 40 definitely sets the context that it's talking about the millennium, a future event.
Anyway, right.
Anyway, yeah.
If we get anything, though, that says, like, perpetually or forever or everlasting.
Right.
The one you showed her about the one he says forever.
Forever, right.
That means forever means forever, right? Yeah.
Right. The one in Exodus.
Yeah, that's the one. And by the way, that was pre-law. So that tells me
talking about the Lord's feast.
Yeah, that tells me that this whatever that is, the Lord's feast, that's never going to end. Like and there's offering sacrifice of animals associated with that one. Yeah, that's what I see it. But I'll see if I can find it.
There were animal sacrifices prior to the law of Moses too.
Oh yeah. So. All the way back to Adam.
Sure.
Yeah. That was Cain's problem. God told him. It says his brother Abel offered the fat thereof. I forgot. Let me see. Genesis 4. But yeah, man. God set the thing way back there. Verse 4. And Abel, he also. By the way, Genesis 4, verse 4.
Right.
4 representing the earth in every way, right? Watch this. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, the fat thereof, and the Lord had. Dude, this is gonna go on forever, man. Ryan, he started with the first man. God clothed him with that lamb. He showed them how to do it. Showed their sons. Adam showed his sons. This thing is, once God instituted way back in Genesis, it's going to go on through, man. It's going all the way through.
Yeah.
We just live in a dispensation where it's pure grace, right? That's why I think God even allowed the temple to be destroyed there in AD 70.
To kind of take the focus away from
from that. Because that was the focus. And then that thing's going to come back into focus, isn't it? Yeah. That was pretty brilliant of him. Well, he's God. It's pretty brilliant. Yeah. After AD 70, the very place that you had to sacrifice, right?
The diminishing is completely finished.
Done.
Right? Yeah.
Took about 40 years, right? Yeah, for 40 years from the Lord to the, So that was pretty cool,